and greatly to be praised. Come on. Arokumaya, Arokumasa, Ashiwaju Ogun, Akeyin Ogun, Ọlọ́run ara, aláṣẹ ara, àtẹ̀lẹ́rẹ́ kárí ayé o. Oyigiyigi, asọ̀rọ̀ máa yẹ, asọ̀rọ̀ máa tasẹ̀. Arúgbó ọjọ́, ọba tí bàbá jẹ́, ọba tó jọba lọ, ọba tí kò tún jíkìjíkìjíkìjíkìjíkì. Everybody say, Arokumasa, Aṣíwájú Ogun, Akẹ́yìn Ogun, Ọlọ́run ara, aláṣẹ ara.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, everyone. Actually, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending upon where you are. Welcome to the Mrs. Conference. Today is another day that God has blessed us to be amongst the land of the living. We want to say thank you and welcome to each and every one of you. Today we have an awesome speaker from the city of DeSoto, Texas, my home city where I live and reside and serve. Well, when I'm in the States. Councilwoman Nicole Raphael will be our guest speaker for today. She is amazing. She is dynamic. And I promise you, you do not want to leave. Please stay. Be sure to like. Be sure to subscribe. Be sure to tag a friend, text a friend, tweet a friend about this conference right now. We're only here for 1 hour, so you only have a short time to go ahead and tell someone about it so they can join in. Before we get started, as always, we always want to give honor where honor is due, so let's open up with the word of prayer. Father God, we come to you today just wanting to say thank you. Thank you for another day that was not promised. Thank you for another day and an opportunity that you extend grace to us and you allow us to get it right on this side of the world. Father, we thank you for your loving kindness. We thank you for your tender mercies. Father, everything that goes forth today, we ask that it be pleasing unto your sight and that the words that are manifested from myself and Councilwoman Raphael, that they will be words that will speak life into someone and that it will change their story, allow them to see something different, or cause them to say, what is it that they can do to serve better, to become an agent of change in their community and in their culture and their environment. Father, we thank you. We love you and we adore you. And we thank you for sacrificing your son, Jesus Christ, on the cross for each and every one of us. In Jesus the Christ we pray. Amen. Amen, everyone. So let's get to, let me tell you a little bit about Africa Restoration Movement. A lot of people have been here, but they're not familiar with Africa Restoration Movement. It is a new movement that was birthed out of my husband, Emmanuel Kushimo, and God has given this to him. So I just want to talk to you a little bit about it, tell you a little bit about it, so you'll know about Africa Restoration Movement. Y'all, if you all know, I'm also producing the show as well as I'm hosting the show today. To God be the glory. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning and welcome to the Mrs. Conference on Government. Hosted by the Africa Restoration Movement, it is an honor to have you all here today as we delve into one of the crucial pillars of ARM, the government. ARM is dedicated to the comprehensive transformation of Africa through 14 fundamental pillars. Those are politics, government, laws, economics, culture, civic society, social life, arts, education, medicine, health, business, religion, sports, science, and technology. Each pillar represents a vital system that influences the fabric of our communities and societies. Today, we focus on the pillar of government, which plays a pivotal role in shaping the future of our continent. The influence of government on communities and individuals cannot be overstated. Effective governance can lead to prosperity, stability, and the overall well-being of the people. However, when governments fail to uphold transparency, accountability, and the rule of law, the negative consequences can be profound and far-reaching. Let's consider some practical examples of how poor governance has adversely impacted Africa and its people. Corruption. In many African countries, corruption has eroded public trust and diverted resources away from critical services. For instance, in Nigeria, the mismanagement of oil revenues has stunted economic development and exacerbated poverty. Instead of funding education, healthcare, and infrastructure, these funds have often ended up in the hands of a few corrupt officials, leaving the majority of the population to suffer. Inefficient public services. In Zimbabwe, years of poor governance and economic mismanagement have led to a collapse of public services. The healthcare system is in dire straits. The hospitals lacking essential medicines and equipment. This inefficiency has resulted in a decline in life expectancy and a rise of preventable diseases, disproportionately affecting the most vulnerable populations. 3. Human rights violation. Oppressive government policies have led to severe human rights abuses, including arbitrary detention, forced labor, and restrictions on freedom of expression. These actions have created a climate of fear and repression, stifling any potential for social and economic progress. Economic mismanagement. In South Sudan, ongoing conflict and poor governance have resulted in one of the world's worst humanitarian crises. Economic instability coupled with widespread corruption has led to severe food shortages, forcing millions into famine condition. Public health failures. In Sierra Leone, the Ebola outbreak highlighted the devastating impact of poor governance on public health. Weak health systems, compounded by corruption and lack of preparedness, led to a catastrophic loss of life and significant social disruption. Education system breakdown. In Somalia, and not just Somalia, but other countries, prolonged conflict and lack of stable governance has disseminated at the education system. Many children are denied the opportunity to attend school, perpetuating cycles of poverty and limiting future economic opportunities for the nation. These examples underscore the critical need for good governance as a foundation of sustainable development. Africa Restoration Movement is committed to advocating for governmental reforms that promote transparency, accountability, and the equitable distribution of resources. By focusing on these areas, we aim to repair, rebuild, and restore the integrity of our governing systems. Today's conference is an opportunity for us to discuss strategies and share ideas on how to improve governance in Africa and the world in which each and every one of us live. We must leverage our collective expertise and experiences to drive positive change and ensure that governments serve the best interests of their people. Let us use this platform to inspire action and collaboration. Together, guided by the principles of Africa Restoration Movement, we can pave the way for a brighter, more equitable future for Africa and the world in which we all live. Thank you for your participation today, and I do look forward to our discussions today. Welcome once again to the Mrs. Conference on Government. Thank you so much for listening. That just tells you a little bit about Africa Restoration Movement. So if anyone asks you what conference did you attend and what was it about, you can share with them a little about what Africa Restoration is. Now, without further delay, we're going to introduce the speaker today for the speaker, Councilwoman Nicole Raphael. And then after that, I will come back and then I will bring her on stage and I will introduce her, give some warm welcomes, and then I will turn it over to her so you can hear from the speaker of the hour, Councilwoman Nicole Raphael. Councilwoman Nicole Raphael has been a dedicated member of the DeSoto, Texas City Council since 2018, bringing invaluable experience and leadership to her community. Serving as the council liaison to the Cultural Arts Foundation, Tri-City Animal Shelter, North Central Texas Council of Governments Emergency Preparedness Planning Council, and Texas Municipal League Region 13 Board Secretary. She has demonstrated her commitment to the welfare of her constituents. Notably, she has also held the position of Mayor Pro Tem. Councilwoman Raphael has been instrumental in shaping her city's strategic planning priorities and policies, championing initiatives that improve the well-being and opportunities of its residents. In her professional capacity within community development at St. Philip's School and Community Center in Dallas, Texas, she possesses a deep understanding of the significant influence that one's zip code has on both health and opportunity. In her professional capacity, Councilwoman Nicole Raphael has been a key influencer in securing government and local funding for community development and environmental justice projects, driven by her unwavering passion for positive change and equitable development. As a dedicated council member, Nicole Raphael actively nurtures a culture of grant seeking among city staff, providing steadfast support and encouragement. Her relentless dedication has empowered the staff to zealously pursue federal and state grants. Particularly noteworthy is Raphael's tireless work mirroring her team's triumphant acquisition of a substantial $160,000 grant for the Safe Streets and Roads for All Action Plan in DeSoto, an exemplar of her commitment in enhancing the city's infrastructure and safety. Her proactive approach to grant acquisition underscores her commitment to improving the community well-being and ensuring that DeSoto remains a safe and thriving place for all its residents. Nicole Raphael. And there you have it, just a little bit about Councilwoman Nicole Raphael. So without further ado, let me introduce to you, actually, she's the councilwoman of my area where I live in DeSoto, so it's truly an honor. But without further ado, let me bring on the stage Councilwoman Nicole Raphael.
Good morning. Good afternoon.
I know, right? How are you?
Right. You know, I'm doing well. Those pictures took me back down memory lane. So thank you for sharing those.
And I didn't realize I had so many pictures of you. You know, we always talk about my first encounter with you at Pastor Henderson's church. I know it's Hope. I can't think of the name of the church. Star of Hope Church. And I remember our first encounter. And from then, I think it's been just a loving relationship.
Yes, it has.
So I want to first of all say thank you so much for taking the opportunity to come and share with us today. And I'm not going to delay it because they don't want to hear from me. They want to hear from you. So to our viewing audience, please, while you're watching, please share this as you hear some insights about the world of government. And becoming an agent of change by DeSoto, Texas City Councilwoman Nicole Raphael.
Oh, wow. Well, first, I'd like to say thank you so much for the invitation, extending it and being able to share and hopefully inspire someone to move into local government and governance, which I think is so important. I'll start with my beginnings. Oftentimes people will ask me, why did you choose to become a council member? Why did you choose to go into politics? Why did you choose to go into local government? For me, growing up, service is what I saw. And so my earliest memory of service that was the most impactful moment of service for me was seeing my granddaddy. I called him granddaddy. My granddaddy he worked at a company that today is Mrs. Beer's Bread. At the time, it was Campbell Target. And today we have thrift stores where you can buy, pastries and breads that is not quite at the expiration date, but close to it. And so before those happened, they allowed the employees to take the bread or the pastries. And so my granddaddy would fill his Big Ten truck with those pastries and breads all the way to the top. And he would come into the neighborhood and he would drive slowly down the street. And this happened about once every 2 weeks or so. He would drive slow down the street and everybody would run to the truck. All the kids would run to the truck and take out what they wanted. And we lived at the end of the street. And by the time that he got to the end of the street, what was left over is what we had an opportunity to have. And it was always just enough. It was never too much. It was never too little. It was always just enough for us. And so I saw my granddaddy do that. And that was my earliest memory of public service and how one person can change the trajectory of what happens in their local community. So, my granddaddy going down the street with food is one. You're addressing, hunger, you are addressing nutrition, you're addressing different things, and you're caring for your community. And so just seeing that level of community care just really, I would just say, just took me to a different level of just wanting to help my community. After that, I saw my mother who retired from Dallas VA hospital. She took care of veterans all of her nursing career. And through that season, I also saw her come into the community and teach classes inside of the community to young ladies. At the time, teenage pregnancy became a big thing that needed to be addressed from a public health perspective. And so at that time, in those years, we didn't have all the extra public health aides, community health workers, in the volumes that we have today. But she helped out a small nonprofit that was around the corner. And so she would go to work, get off work, and then on certain days would go and teach classes and work with these young ladies and mentor these young ladies. And so again, just seeing that level of service and care in the community was something that just really stuck out to me. So those were the two most impactful moments for me in terms of like why I care for your community. And so I think of governance, being on city council as public care or caring for my community. And so it was a big push for me wanting more inside of my community. And then continuing on, I saw different local people, rise into the place of, hey, we gather the community, we inform the community, but now what do you do? Government is a lot of people have negative views of government, but government is the best thing that you can do. One of the best things that you can do for your community in terms of putting systems and policies in place. And as you know, we're governed by policies and systems. And traditionally, or rather not traditionally, I'll say in the past and currently, we have some systems in place designed to do certain things. And some of those certain things were negative things towards certain people. And so when you can become a part of the system to change the system, that's the best thing that you can do. Often I encounter individuals who see local government or local governance as something that's really negative. And because, of what you mentioned in various countries and towns and townships, corruption that does happen with individuals and people. I like to say that when God's people do God's work in the places that he send them, a lot of things can be accomplished. And government is another one of those places that can happen. And then when I say God's people, those people who are called by his name, who know who they are, who know what God has called them to do, who wants to live by his precepts, those people, when they move into the space of government, you can do a lot of change and you can do a lot of restoration inside of policy making and inside of good governance. And so I attend a church where my pastor would say, a messed up person leads to a messed up family, which leads to a messed up city, which leads to a messed up state, which leads to a messed up country. And then you can keep going on that way. And so I would say more than anything, as it relates to anything that anyone does, but particularly when it comes to government and governance, having that right heart attitude, having that relationship where God can affect you, and you can you, you can live according to His grace. You can be restored when things are not right. But more importantly, when you can hear and you can read God's word and you can bring that justice and righteousness to the work that you do, it makes a difference. And so, and I'm speaking on it because I heard a lot of just the different places where you talked about corruption, and it is everywhere. It is. And when those people get in place, and when the community allows for those type of individuals to stay in power, um, it says something about the larger community. So, what I always like to do is inspire people, individuals, to go after the roles, go after changing the system, go be the one person who does make the change. And oftentimes, many people don't realize just one person can shift a room, can shift the atmosphere, can shift the policy, can shift what governance looks like. And if I can't say anything else, I definitely would say just know that your one voice is power. Growing up as a young girl, I was the shy one in the group. I was the one who didn't raise her hand, but wanted to raise her hand. And then as I grew up, I found my voice. And then I found that, people would want to ignore my voice, but I kept pushing, and I kept pushing for the things that I thought was right. And when it was, we think about policies, we think about government, we think about systems, and oftentimes we don't know how those things work. So pursuing understanding, getting knowledge, figuring out, learning what it means, learning what what it takes to get in to get in the race, to bring policy forward, three, to negotiate, for, again, understanding what are the processes. And then once you understand those things, be a part of changing the system when those systems are not serving the people. And that has to be paramount, when it comes to local government and local governments. Is why are you doing what you do? You're doing it to take care of the community that you live in, so that we all can live together safely, so that we all can say, hey, this is how we want to spend our funds, our public funds, our monies, so on and so on and so on. And so I always like to encourage everyone, never give up on what seems like, oh my gosh, this is so horrible. These people are just crazy. The influence or the corruption or just all those things, you know, don't allow that to cause you not to speak up, to give your voice, whether it's you before coming into a role of politics, or no, I'm sorry, a position of local governance or national governance. Just know that your voice does matter. And I promise you, I promise you, I promise you, once you start saying some things that irritate some people, you will get noticed. You really will. But building the community where you empower people to share their voices, I think is really important as well. And making certain people know how to access the system, that part is really important. Because again, where I live, the city council, we serve the people. That's our whole sole purpose, is to serve, from the perspective of putting policies in place that make sense for how we use our dollars, how we serve our city from a wellness perspective, from an infrastructure perspective. Those things are really important. And it's very important that we hear the voice of individuals, and that they let us know what's working, what's not working, what's going well, what's, is going great. All those things are really important. So having that two-way dialogue, being in this position as a council member, for me is very, very important. Knowing and understanding what my community needs, and then just making certain that, there are seven of us who are one body, and as one body, policies are put in front of us. We vote them up or we vote them down. How money is spent comes before us. We vote it up or we vote it down. So it's also making certain that when I'm hearing a lot from the people who live in my district or my place, we call them places in DeSoto, who lives in my place, making certain that my colleagues understand our perspective, who are coming from this area. So just being able to communicate with individuals and negotiate and ensuring that all voices at the table is something that's very important to me that I like to do as well. And as it relates to the young ladies or to the people who will be watching this, I definitely want to encourage you from the perspective of finding your voice and deciding on what's really important to you. So, if what's important to you is healthcare, or if what is important to you is infrastructure, find your voice in that, and then start bringing people along. And then you, as one individual, start to build on this energy of, hey, this is something that we need, and we need to go to whoever our local officials are to say, hey, this is important to us. And then you don't stop when you get those no's. You continue forward. And then when you go to your local government, go with solutions. Because a lot of times, you can go with the problem, but if you don't go with a solution, that the solution that the government may try to find will be really slow. So giving that input is really important, because remember, if you were in that role, you will be coming with a solution. So you, as the constituent, come with a solution. And so I think that's really important as well. And so I'm going to pause right here and ask you if there are any questions, or are there any concerns that you would like to express, as far as like, hey, maybe I did rise up and but no one heard me, or what do I do when our local government is not as open as yours? I'm happy to answer any questions related to that. And then again, Dr. Kuzmo, forgive me, I'm mispronouncing your name. I'm still getting used to you in this new role, which I think is a beautiful role, but just want to know if you had any questions.
I had to come back on the stage. Yes, so there are some questions. Let me get to them. Give me 1 second. Let me flip my phone. Okay. And to the listening audience, to the viewing audience, if you have any questions, please put it in the comments. She is willing to ask any questions. So those of you who have always wanted to ask Councilwoman Raphael a question, here's the perfect opportunity. You don't have to wait until you catch her in the street. You don't have to wait until it's at a council meeting. You have her up close and personal. And also know that if we don't get to your question today, that we will forward them to her, and she will actually answer them, and we will actually post the responses on this feed from this conference today. You do have one question. It is from Hope Elizabeth. Hello, Miss Hope. It says, please share that constituents are able to sit with you and discuss concerns and ideas. So she just wants the people to know that you are, as a government official, you're always available. And I know she is.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Openness is really important. Transparency in government is really important, and making certain that, again, particularly as a local official, our roles are, very hands on the street. Like, we're really close. Like, I live next door to all of my constituents, and so making certain to hear and listen to their concerns is really, really important. Very important, actually. And as it relates to, I'm local here in DeSoto, but DeSoto is part of a county. And so we have our county commissioners. Our county is a part of a state. We have state representatives. Our state, of course, is a part of our country. We have U.S. representatives. And so having access to those people and making certain that the voices that I hear, they also hear, because sometimes the further you get up in government, it seems like the harder it is for your voice to be heard, but your voice can be heard. And starting with your closest local official is a great way to amplify your voice, to take your voice even farther as well. And so, yeah, very important. And thank you, Ms. Hope.
And and that's one of the things that I can commend our city council for, is that you all are up close and personal. And one of the things is that because not in every country does the person have to live in their area. So I do want to say this. All of our council members, including our mayor, lives in the city of DeSoto. That is one of the requirements that they must do. They must live within our city. And the accessibility to them, because they do their best to shop They do their best to patronize the businesses that are in our community. So you will see them out. And there are times that you can stop them. And sometimes we have to remember that they have family, they have lives, and there's personal downtime. But share with them the accessibility, even despite, um, share with the audience how it is for you to live in the community and how to actually still maintain your personal time, your personal space. What does that look like for you?
Oh gosh, well that's easy. For me, what it looks like is so I don't have a lot of free time, but the free time I do have, I do try to make certain that I, do the things that's necessary to keep me, motivated, keep me, healthy, keep me rested and so forth. And so for me, what that literally looks like, because I do have a day job. So in DeSoto, and let me tell you, I didn't, so we can orient people. So DeSoto is in the state of Texas, and we're in Dallas County. A lot of people know Dallas, and a lot of the smaller cities. When they say, "Hey, where are you from?" people would just say Dallas. But what you're really saying is you're from Dallas County, not the city of Dallas. So we have the city of Dallas and Dallas County. DeSoto is situated in the southern part of Dallas County, the furthest most part of Dallas County, southern Dallas County. And so for me, and because we are a small city, we are recently paid, but it's more of a stipend. And so the majority of us, many of us have 95 jobs. And so I have my 95 job, and then we have our council meetings, which are three times a month. And then we have special meetings that go along with that. And then there are all the community events or the community meetings that may happen. And so a lot of my free time, because my children are adults, I have that kind of free time that it
Absolutely.
doesn't bother me. And I enjoy what I do as a public servant. I enjoy the community touch points and aspects, because many of the people I get to touch, have now become friends, so I call them community friends. So it's not a burden for me. And then when I come home and I rest. When I get up and work, it's usually, late at night, in the middle of the night, when it comes to city council things, whether it's, reading or doing the research or studying. But I find that time, because I don't have, little ones around, which, God
Right.
bless my council members, who have been in that space. But yeah, it's in this season of life is easy because I enjoy the work that I do in community, and it's fun.
Absolutely. And it shows in your love for the community. I've attended several council meetings. So it shows of all of our council members. And the beautiful thing about it is that because you all live in the city, you have an investment beyond just serving the community, because you're actually, however you serve is also the benefit that you receive as it pertains to our city. One of the things I do want to chime in on is when you talked about being a voice to your government officials. And I will tell you this, because I was one who I would just vent about the things that I did not like. And I went to my council members and I shared it. One of the things that I can tell you is that when they talk about bringing solutions, that is one of the things that they will ask. That is one of the things that I commend our council for, including our mayor. They will say, well, how do you feel? How can we rectify it? What is your suggestions? And they don't just say it just to be saying it. They actually saying it because they see it through one lens, where we as the community members, we see it through another lens. So when they actually ask you those questions, allow that to be the opportunity and be prepared to offer a solution. In addition to that, also, when they share with you when they share with you and ask you to do things, to follow the process so things can actually action can be taken, please follow those directives. If you don't follow those directives, then there's a limited amount of work that they can do to put things into action, because in any government
Mhm.
system, there is a process, there is policies, there is guidelines that we as a community, as well as the council members are held accountable for. So please make sure that in addition to being your voice, that you also follow the suggestions or the steps and the guidelines or the processes that your city government officials ask you to do. They're just not asking you, well, let me say this, not all. They're just not asking you to do something to give you busy work. They're asking you because they really have heard you and they want to put into actions the things that you are asking them to take action on. So I just want to throw that 2 cents in from my learning experience. But we do have other questions.
Yes.
Are you
Thank
ready?
you for sharing, future councilwoman. Yes.
No, I'm not. No. I like sitting in the background because then I'm not put in a box. Let's see. Emmanuel Kushimo, who is the founder and CEO of Africa Restoration Movement, he asked, what strategies can be implemented to effectively combat corruption in government institutions?
Pushing for greater transparency. When you have corruption in a government institution, strategy wise, from a community perspective, it's very important that the community pays attention to everything. And that can be daunting for some people. It can feel like a job, but when monies are involved, when it's your money, your tax dollars that are involved, I think people should use that as their opportunity, to that. I mean, that's your right? That's just your right. When monies are coming your way, they've been donated or they've been gifted or anything like that, making certain that you have community members who's willing to be that watchdog for the organizations, getting to know your local journalist. There are some journalism groups that, are really good at public justice, transparency. Today, I'll say it that way. That really taunts that. And so whether it's a small group or a larger group, strategy wise, in terms of getting eyes on things, will be working with probably local universities, colleges, where students who are in political science maybe need a project. And it's something that if it's a movement that you want to get going as it relates to strategy, reaching out to those people groups who have the capacity to do that. And then again, attending the meetings, reading the documents, constantly asking for the information. Now, when you are up against, policies or policymakers who's not sharing that information, I think it's really just leaning into, all the other pressure points, strategy wise, that those organizations or those governments would consider important to them. So whether it's a particular funder, once you find things out like that, is really leaning into those things, but making things known, so publicizing it. So you don't have a local newspaper, or media outlet, create that avenue, create the lane to get the information out, and make certain that everybody's aware of what that information is. And more importantly, making certain that the government entities are aware that you're aware and that you're making this information public. So strategy wise, it definitely requires people leaning into it, but it incorporates, with everybody leaning into it, bringing others along so that you can amplify the voices. And that's probably the most important thing, is to amplify the light, shine the light on what it is that needs to be seen, and then amplify the voices of those who's doing the call or call outs.
Absolutely. And one of the things, she said, lean in. Let me just say it for the common people. It's actually research it and find it for yourself. Because it's a government entity. All information is public. You just have to utilize the resources that are available for you to obtain that information. Hope Elizabeth, nope. Miss Hope, once made a comment. She says, it's important to study the issue you have, and when you give examples, then your solution, that it will have significant impact. And she's following it up with a question, which is oftentimes, because we know that our school districts play a huge role into whether a family moves into a city, and whether they do not. So I believe that those two entities are very important when you're building a city, which means that we have to have that communication and engagement on both ends as community members. And Hope asked, how are you personally engaging with the ISD?
Sure. Related to our local ISD, which is DeSoto ISD, um, what helped me a lot was one of the trustees recommended me to participate in a cohort called Leadership ISD. And from that, the members of that particular cohort were all DeSoto based. And actually, one of my cohort members became a school board member, who was just recently the now past president of the school board, Miss McKissick, Trustee McKissick. And so with that, that gave me a different perspective on what equity and inclusion and justice looks like as it relates to the information that our kids are learning, so on, and not making the assumption just because it's a majority minority district and so on and so on. And so from there, it gave me greater purview to look at, like, okay, let's look at these numbers, and now let's like really think about what policies can we put in place from a city perspective that can also influence the students in our community, which influence the students that are a part of the school district. And so having the relationships with the trustees has been important for me. Just leaning in, getting in information, as well as in terms of getting information. I've always been asking the question, what can the city do? What can the city do? And then we kind of get a kind of roundabout answer, but today, the responses are a little bit more substantive. And so with that, over the past years in being on city council, our city council has always thought that the school district was very important and understood, how important it was to the city, to the tune of using federal dollars that came to the city to use those dollars to give it to the school district that they're, utilizing literally today, this year, ensuring that there is a voice from the school district through the city, whether it's sharing information or whether it's, allowing time for the superintendent to come and to speak. That's really important. I have my own personal thing that I want to amplify, before I leave this role, which will be, continuing to amplify the library as it relates to our school district and, impacting our students from a literacy standpoint. And so just making certain to bring people and put pieces together. And so recently had meeting with an organization that's doing amazing work as it relates to tutoring and literacy, making certain that person knew our library director, and then also making certain that that person was connected with our superintendent. And so nothing has manifested yet, but I'm looking forward to something manifesting soon. But making certain that we hear from the trustees, hear from parents, and other leaders who are doing the work inside of the schools, that we hear and then parrot that back and make certain that there's, less friction and more seamlessness, whether it's information sharing or communicating thoughts and ideas as it relates to what does programming look like, as it relates to your youth master plan, as it relates to your library, or as it relates to passing that information forward as it relates to what's happening with Parks and Rec and youth. Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. And I can tell you that I love my city. So I keep saying our city because I can relate to everything you're saying. That cohesiveness, excuse me, is at work. It works. It really, really works. When you have leaders in leadership that are not only leaders, but are servants without an agenda, that makes the difference. That really makes the difference. So we do have a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Another question, Gloria Uchi. She says, my question is, what do you do when you are in a country or city where you can't even be granted access to your leaders, politicians, to give solutions to some problems that you have noticed?
That's a hard one. That's a really hard one. And I don't have a good answer for you on that one. But what I will say is, so remember I talked about my granddaddy? And so as my granddaddy. I love my granddaddy. Um, what he did what government couldn't do or wasn't doing, because we lived in a poor community. I did not
Mm.
know my granddaddy was a janitor until I was, almost out of high school. I'm like, my granddaddy was what? I thought he was the president of the world. And so it was a poor community. And what I saw a lot of was people sharing. And so one person affected nutrition, on our block. And so when you have a government who won't even allow you, as you the word allow you to, entry points into like even getting close to them. So what does it look like when, I want to know what that particular thing is actually, that you would like your government to do, because part of the solution could be with people you're already with. And if those solutions are not there, there may be enough people with enough voices for you to go in, instead of going in as, just this one speck. You're going in as this, great container of weight of, hey, this is what the people are saying. And it's
Mm.
continuing to knock on the door, but you can't give up. I think that's probably the most important thing. You can't give up your voice, and assuming that because they won't quote allow, it's the people that has to change that quote allow. It's that part. But that's when things get hard, because it at some point in history, in different points of history,
Mhm.
the push became a fight,
Yeah.
and it was the fight to change the system, the fight for truth, the fight for justice, the fight for righteousness. So it's just understanding that you can't give up, and that it may cost something, as you try to push in and lean into your government and get them to, spotlight on the things that's important to the people, as they should be doing.
And it's good that you thank you for that response. And it's good that you use the words, it may cost something. We know back when our ancestors, it cost them sometimes their lives, it cost them their families being separated. There was a greater cost. What would you say to Gloria, that if she does not allow her voice to be diminished, what are some of the possibilities in today's time in which we live that would be something that would, what would the cost would be for her or
Mm-hmm.
anyone? What would that
Mm-hmm.
cost be?
Mm-hmm. Um, I have a friend who I have friends who have ministry in Dominican Republic, and I'm a part of that particular ministry. And so some of the work that they do, I try not to reveal too much. Some of the work that they do does not make the government happy. Let me say it that way.
Mm.
Doesn't make the government happy, but there are some things that need to change, related to the government. And so some of the costs could be, of course, it could be retribution, from, local officials or things like that, that should not be. But here again, it's that amplifying, uh, putting the spotlight on what that thing is, right? So
Mm.
if it's, whether it's, there's some further retribution from, maybe, your local law enforcement, or um, yeah, or other individuals from a government perspective, or not allowing certain things for you, or making things hard, from a systematic standpoint, where you just really can't point your finger at to any one person. If it's those things, it's really just continuing to put the spotlight on the injustices that are happening. And you can't give your voice up into today. Like, I love living today versus yesterday. And I with all of our ancestors, for everybody who has gone through the struggle and who has given their life, for us, particularly in America, for this right to do all the things that we do today. Like, I honor them to the highest heights, 100%. But I think what's happening today is the world has been agitated, and as it relates to women and women's rights and so on and so forth, there's a greater spotlight on it. And it's not just from individuals in that country. You have women from other countries looking at women in other countries and saying, hey, let me join you in this fight, or let me amplify your voice, or let me, so what I would also say, it might be continuing to build on the coalition, that you're building on right now with Africa Restoration, with other organizations that's amplifying voices of people, in countries that have been marginalized. I'll say it that way. So it might be getting outside help to give a greater spotlight, to strategically change the system. Because sometimes some things, yeah, we'll say some things and people get marginalized and voices won't be heard. But when you hear that same thing coming from a different direction, sometimes things change. So I don't want to make it too simple, because I know this is a really hard topic, in countries that don't have democratic systems. But there still are things that we can do, in collaboration and in just trusting God and seeing how He moves us to work together in those collaborations.
Absolutely. Hope says, great response. It takes one step at a time to create change. The next question is, how do you stay informed about the decisions that your leaders are making? Great question.
Great question.
Yes.
How do I stay informed? Wow. So tactically and practically, I'm on everybody's email list. And so when you say leaders, I'm thinking about from the county, the state, and federal levels. So I pay attention to a whole lot. And I don't have little children running around, so I have time to read. Staying informed is very important. Understanding what's happening on a national level is really important. For a lot of years in DeSoto, from a local thinking nationally, there was not a giant connection to that. Today, we have direct connections with, our U.S. representatives, our state representatives, and so forth. And the people who have moved into leadership of late have been more transparent than, past history. And so it's easier. So for me, it's easier. I stay connected, with, getting on their email list. I stay connected with going to conferences and then, just simply reaching out, to stay abreast of, where they are. And, like, hey, this is something that's important to me, from this is what I'm hearing on the local level to the state level. So that'll be my next, is to get some community conversations going around that we can give to our next state representatives so they can carry our voices forward.
You just did the perfect segue. Thank you so much. You said next state representative. Absolutely. Councilwoman Raphael, we know that this is your final term, correct? And so we're going to ask, so to those who are not part of Dallas County, City of DeSoto, our elected officials serve 2 terms, 3 terms?
2 3-year terms.
2 3-year terms is what they
Yes.
serve. So we know that you have done great leadership. You have implemented great things. You have allowed things to manifest. You have actually been the voice for several of us in the community, as well as you have been one to stand your ground, stand alone when you have to make those critical hard votes and decisions, because it may have an impact, whether good, bad, or indifferent, on the people that you have committed and took an oath to serve. So with that being said, as we know that every leader actually has a departure date in the city of DeSoto, Hope asked the question, are you mentoring anyone in place 3 to continue the great work that has been done so far? A great leader will train their replacement because they prioritize the work rather than themselves.
Yes. Great question.
Inquiring minds want to know.
Yes. So, yes, let me just say yes. So since I've been on council, I've been intentional in being very responsive to people. And as much time as they need to understand the issue, I have stood there to explain it, to the point where they finally feel like, oh my gosh, I'm taking up so much of your time. I'm like, no, it's okay, because I really want you to understand. I really want you to get it. So I have been paying attention to individuals who've been paying attention to the city, and so to answer your question, yes, indirectly, not directly, because I think people have a choice. I don't want to be don't want to say, hey, I've anointed this one person to be it. But what I can say is I can vouch for this person because I've seen their work in the community. I've seen how they've engaged with us. I've seen how, they've increased their knowledge. I can vouch for that person, to say these are the things that I have seen. And so there are several people in place 3 that will be amazing candidates. Now it will be up to them finally to decide to put their name in the hat and to go out there and be the choice for the people. But I definitely want to make certain that there are several people who are well informed, and that the people of place 3 or the people of DeSoto, city of DeSoto, Texas, have choices, and that they have great choices to select from.
Thank you. So, Miss Hope, I hope that answered your question. It answered mine, but I'll take it offline. How, however, what are some things that you are doing to make an impact as you are not make an impact, but what are the things that you want to see actually done or completed before you actually turn over your seat in place 3 to whoever
Sure.
the next council member is? Mhm.
Sure. Just ensuring that we have great systems in place internally. So that's number one. Ensuring that we continue to attract um, give skills and talents into those positions that's needed in our city. That's really important. So the people who will be carrying out the vision of the council, or rather the vision of the community. Ensuring that we have plans in place as it relates to. So this is kind of this is more of an infrastructure thing, but just ensuring that we are ready for when life changes here in our community. So as we age and so on, as our systems age, in my area, in place 3 rather, we have lots of creeks. And so just making certain that we have plans in place related to whatever mitigation work that might need to happen related to a creek. So as somebody's house is, people who live on creeks, they actually don't know that they actually own up to the middle of that water line. They so just
Oh,
making certain that
wow.
knowledge is there, making certain that, whatever the city needs to have done, in terms of what we're responsible for, we're taking care of those things. So it's kind of, that rose to the forefront with me when I had a few seniors actually call me. And what I realized was like, oh wow, we don't have plans in place. And so just making certain to keep the spotlight on that for place 3. So that's important to me. What we have going on right now in terms of some big rocks, are some big economic development rocks, whether it's Hampton Road revitalization project, or is having a focus on other commercial nodes in our city. And so in our area, we actually have a new neighbor coming in that we're excited about on Beltline, and just ensuring that place 3 is considered, as we move forward from an economic development standpoint, and that it looks equally good as other parts of the city, or maintaining its look as a part to the other cities. So what's happening in place 3 is also, we have an aquatic center that will have a groundbreaking on that this year. And so seeing that through, but making certain that our system is in place when it comes to marketing, and that we're doing all that we need to do to attract customers and clients to come to that, because it has operational costs that we want to make certain that the memberships pay for the operations. And so those are just some of the things that I want to make certain that happens, but definitely leaving the city better than it was when I came in, gifting, that, good systems in place so the next person can come in, and it's the ease of, it's just a matter of just continuing on with community meetings and keeping people informed and hearing from folks.
Awesome. Thank you. And so there you have it, everyone. Councilwoman Nicole Raphael. And before we end today, I would
Mhm.
like for you to leave a final statement to the individual who is they're they're a lover of the kingdom. They have a kingdom mindset, yet they want to be an agent of change in the world of government. What would you say to them despite their demographic within the world we live?
Sure. So I have the perfect scripture I want to share, which is First Peter 4:10. And it says, each of you should use whatever gift you have received to serve others as faithful servants of God's grace in its various forms. That's it. It can't be no more profound than that. That is it. Just serve people, love people, serve people. What you don't know, find out. When you need help, ask, but serve people. If God is moving you into this role, into this space, do that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it.
Absolutely. Well, everyone, again, there you have it. You have had an opportunity to get up close and personal with Councilwoman Nicole Raphael. This is what Africa Restoration Movement is about, is to hear beyond the actual government seat or the leadership seat of the 14 pillars, where an individual actually, we see them in the limelight, but to see them just on a day-to-day like today, where you just have the casual conversation, you're able to ask the questions. We have this every third and fourth Saturday of every month at 8 a.m. Central Standard Time and all the other time zones, but always Central Standard Time at 8 a.m. Please share this with someone. You can always find it on our YouTube channels, either on Africa Restoration Movement or the network, which is Lonnie B and Company Network. We are pushing to be agents of change in the world in which we live, as we know that the United States of America is a melting pot. However, there are still other countries where all of us come from that we shall not forget. And we also need to make sure that we're doing our part to be a voice and to be an agent of change. Councilwoman Raphael, I thank you so much. It has truly been an honor and pleasure. And as always, when I come back to the States, when we return back, we will have coffee at our coffee house. But nonetheless, everyone, if you enjoy what you have heard from Councilwoman Raphael, please tell them how they can get in contact with you if they would like to.
Yes. Reach me at nraphael and I'll give you my personal, which is gmail.com. That's NRAPHIEL @gmail.com. Thank you so much, Doctor. This has been amazing. I love your heart and what you're doing, what you and your husband are doing for the world, not for the city, not for the continent, but for the world. So thank you so much for the opportunity to share.
You are more than welcome. And to everyone, to our viewing audience, we thank you for staying with us. We thank you for being a part of this. We thank you for being an agent of change in your country, in your city, at the continent, in the community in which you live. And remember this, that no matter what, however small you think it is, if it matters to you, then it should matter to your government. So never let your voice be disseminated or taken away from you because you feel that others will devalue it. If you value it, then your government should value it. So until next Saturday, we will actually have from Turks and Caicos, we will actually have Honorable Akira Missick. She's a member of the parliament and former deputy premier of the Turks and Caicos Island. She will be coming on to share on Refine from a different country at what it's like to be an agent of change in Turks and Caicos. It's a Saturday you do not want to miss. You don't want to miss any Saturdays. But until then, enjoy your day. Make the best of your day. Be the best. And you all know my saying, smile. You owe it to yourself. No one does it better than you. Enjoy your day and see you next time. Thank you, Councilwoman Raphael. Bye for now, everyone.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Nicole Raphael has been a dedicated member of the DeSoto, Texas City Council since 2018, bringing invaluable experience and leadership to her community. Serving as the council liaison to the Cultural Arts Foundation, Tri-City Animal Shelter, North Central Texas Council of Governments Emergency Preparedness Planning Council, and Texas Municipal League Region 13 Board Secretary. She has demonstrated her commitment to the welfare of her constituents. Notably, she has also held the position of Mayor Pro Tem. Councilwoman Raphael has been instrumental in shaping her city's strategic planning priorities and policies, championing initiatives that improve the well-being and opportunities of its residents. In her professional capacity within community development at St. Philip's School and Community Center in Dallas, Texas, she possesses a deep understanding of the significant influence that one's zip code has on both health and opportunity. In her professional capacity, Councilwoman Nicole Raphael has been a key influencer in securing government and local funding for community development and environmental justice projects, driven by her unwavering passion for positive change and equitable development. As a dedicated council member, Nicole Raphael actively nurtures a culture of grant seeking among city staff, providing steadfast support and encouragement. Her relentless dedication has empowered the staff to zealously pursue federal and state grants. Particularly noteworthy is Raphael's tireless work mirroring her team's triumphant acquisition of a substantial $160,000 grant for the Safe Streets and Roads for All Action Plan in DeSoto, an exemplar of her commitment in enhancing the city's infrastructure and safety. Her proactive approach to grant acquisition underscores her commitment to improving the community well-being and ensuring that DeSoto remains a safe and thriving place for all its residents. Nicole Raphael.